We're looking at a solid, 2 to 3 inches in some areas of eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. Atlanta, we're down over 8 inches for the year. So I know it's not good news if you're trying to travel today, but we do need the rain. It's been very dry, and you can see the heavy rain upon us already this morning through 8, 9 o'clock. And that's not even it. We're going to see a heavier line of storms move through later this afternoon. And these are the storms to watch for the potential of severe weather. So there could be winds gusting up to around 60 miles an hour down towards Noonan. You've got McDonough up towards the connector here in downtown Atlanta. Yes, there could be some slowdowns, not just there, but at the airport, which is located right down here on the south side. In fact, they are expecting a ground stop really any time after 10 o'clock this morning. There is a tornado threat south of Atlanta, southern Georgia, but also here in southern Alabama, including Montgomery, where it's a Torcon 3. Tornado condition index are a threat for tornadoes, with that threat scale going up to 10 being the worst. So with a 3, that means severe thunderstorms are likely. Expect a few tornadoes possibly, and tornado watches could certainly be issued by the Storm Prediction Center. And then your local National Weather Service, they're the ones who see the rotation on Doppler radar and will go ahead and issue those warnings. And that's when you need to take action and get to your safe place. So there's the heavy rain, Prattville, Montgomery, over towards Auburn. Already a wet morning out there. We're going to see a little bit of a break in the action if you need to run to the store and maybe do some grocery shopping. But then the storms come back later this afternoon. And these are the storms that could be worse as we go towards 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then just isolated in fashion as we head towards this evening, well after the sun goes down. Charlotte, here's where we're also expecting perhaps a ground stop anytime after 10 o'clock is what they're saying. So the Queen City, we see the showers already through midday, and then the worst of the weather, in fact, the stronger thunderstorms, they come through late this evening towards 7, 8 o'clock, Estonia, over towards Lake Hartwell. You can see over towards Concord. We are going to be dealing with some really heavy downpours. Same thing with South Carolina. We need the rain desperately, but just be careful if you're traveling the 95 corridor, because it's going to be late tonight into tomorrow morning as these showers and storms persist. Steph?
Well, storms also rumbling through the Midwest.
Sure. Let's check on your Tuesday morning front lines. We begin on the West Coast. Steph, it doesn't always have to have a name.
Sheesh. All right.
Jackson International. We are expecting perhaps a ground stop sometime after 10 o'clock this morning. At least that's on the schedule, the FAA page. Also, Charlotte could see a ground stop anytime after 10 o'clock this morning due to the wet weather, the stormy weather that's moving through the southeast today. So unfortunately, it's not a great day for flying. I mean, it's really hard to adjust some of these tickets that you might already have. The flights are overbooked. You've got the storms in Atlanta, Charlotte looking at wet weather as well. Pittsburgh, not expecting too many problems for you, even though there are a few lingering raindrops. Dallas, Denver, looking okay for travel today, but Denver, just you wait. We've got snow coming for you guys the day after Thanksgiving. Now we're trying to get to Thanksgiving, right? Here's a look at the radar. You can see the rain coming down pretty heavy at times in the northwest corner of Georgia, and you can see also in Alabama. No warnings right now, but there are some thunderstorms out there. Southern Alabama, down toward the Gulf Coast, and even outside of thunderstorms, you've got an overall windy situation. Look at the fuchsia, the pink on the map, that deeper red right along the Alabama-Georgia state line. We're talking winds gusting 40, 50 miles an hour. So if you're not the best flyer, anticipate some turbulence. Just be prepared for that. Severe weather also a possibility across southern portions of Alabama down into the Florida Panhandle. Otherwise, that stretch of I-20 looks wet between Birmingham and Atlanta. And eventually the Carolinas get the worst weather late this afternoon toward the evening time frame, where we can't rule out the possibility of isolated tornadoes. Felicia?
Yeah, going to be
that we normally look for severe weather this time of year. It's second severe season. It happens late fall across the deep south, and this is exactly what played out yesterday between Louisiana and Mississippi. That's where the 5 tornado reports were. We had some trees and power lines coming down, and just a few hail reports coming out of these storms as well. And now this entire system is pushing east. It's currently sitting over Alabama, down into the Florida Panhandle, and yet to work through Atlanta. You think it's bad now with that 1.5 mile visibility. We've got some bigger storms coming through this afternoon, which unfortunately could delay some of your flights and possibly even cause a ground stop at the busiest airport. Right now, the winds are east in Atlanta, about 12 miles an hour. At times, they've been gusting between 20 and 30. You'll notice that the stronger gusts around Birmingham, where we have a sustained wind at 20, but gusting close to 40 miles an hour, all the way up through the Carolinas. We are expecting an overall windy situation, even outside of thunderstorm activity. Now, with the thunderstorms themselves, we could see severe winds in excess of 60 miles an hour, especially right here in that warm sector between the cold front and the warm front. So when those winds get to be around 58 miles an hour, that's when a severe warning could be issued. And unfortunately, we can't rule out more rotation with some of these storms, as we do have some wind shear in the environment, and that could allow some tornadoes to form. Similar to what took place yesterday, Torcon not as high as yesterday. It was a 5, but still a 3 is something you should take note of, even a 2 from Georgia through the Carolinas. So it's not a 0 threat when it comes to tornadoes, and that severe weather definitely needs to be monitored even through late tonight along the 95 corridor as those storms reach there. So severe thunderstorms are likely when we have a Torcon 3. A few tornadoes are possible. We could see a tornado watch being issued by the Storm Prediction Center, and then, of course, the local National Weather Service will issue those warnings by county. So if you are traveling, know what county you're in, know where to go, make sure everybody in the family knows where to go in case you need to seek shelter. Here come the bigger storms through Atlanta, Georgia, right along the connector here by 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There's Auburn, Alabama. We expect those storms to be quite strong. We're going to lose some of that energy as the sun goes down, but notice we still have enough energy to keep those storms going through the Carolinas. Late tonight, even into early tomorrow morning. Wednesday morning could be a stormy start, especially around Charleston, Myrtle Beach, and up toward the Outer Banks of North Carolina. The good news is we need the rain. I'll end with that because it's been very dry. Atlanta's down more than 8 inches for the year. The bad news is if you're trying to travel, it is going to be very slick out there, especially with all the leaves that are coming down this time of year. We're just past peak now with the foliage, and those winds are still going to be quite strong. Outdoor burning, still not a good idea, even though we get the rain in here. But there are fires that are burning right here in eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. So those winds are still going to be an issue. But Felicia, we're getting rain.
Yeah.
So now those leaves are getting soggy, which makes it really tough to travel on.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Those leaves can be just as slick as sometimes wintry weather.
Bad as ice, right?
Exactly. So you want to slow down. But, you know.
So overall, we've been pretty lucky when it comes to severe weather this autumn season. If you go back to October, there were a few days here and there where we're impacted, basically above the average of severe weather reports, which on average is about 18 reports, and that's combined wind, hail, tornadoes. November was yesterday, but of course it doesn't matter average or below average. If it hits your neighborhood and you're impacted, you are definitely not too happy about that right now. But the overall line of severe weather reports that we've had so far this year is below the average, and would like to keep it that way. But obviously this time of year, even though it's fall, it's a transition time, so we can get the severe weather happening any month of the year. And when it comes to first severe season, that's in the spring. That's when we have the majority of the tornado reports during the month of May. But this time of year, we get that dip in the jet stream. Cold air is trying to kind of erode out that warm air that's been with us all summer, right? You get that temperature contrast, which basically energizes the front and makes those fronts even stronger at the surface. And we get those thunderstorms developing, especially across the south this time of the year. This is November climatology telling us that the greater tornado reports can happen in Louisiana, Mississippi. And Felicia, that's exactly what happened yesterday.
Yeah, we definitely saw that messy weather.
Just after Thanksgiving for a place like Denver, Colorado, it's actually going to be pretty mild today and tomorrow. You got the temperatures actually approaching 70 for your Wednesday. Then we drop it down for Thanksgiving, but the snow comes in on Friday morning with your high temperature not even getting above freezing, and those overnight lows are getting down into the teens. So we do have this set up for another system to spread that snow. We just saw decent snow across the Wasatch. Some areas getting more than a foot of snow, which is great news for the resorts. We're thickening up that base. More and more resorts are opening up. We got a base in Copper, Breckenridge, Keystone open right now in Colorado, and we are delivering more snow even through the Tetons as we get towards later in the week. So let's kind of time it out. Starting the clock at Wednesday night, we see the snow breaking out in the Bitterroot Range, moving through the northern Rockies of Montana, Big Sky Country through Jackson Hole. For Denver, it's not going to be until late Thursday night into early morning. You might look out the window and see that snow coming down. Obviously great news for the resorts, but just be careful getting there along I-70, I-25, being impacted all the way through the weekend. Steph?
Let's get you out the door in the Midwest.
A rocky start to the holiday week, a potent line of storms leaving behind destruction here in the Deep South, including tornado reports. And this is just a couple of days before Thanksgiving, and we're not signing the all clear just yet. This same system heading east, threatening to dump heavy rain, maybe cause some flooding on some of your travel routes. We could see more storm clouds like this all across the southeast today. You're watching America's Morning Headquarters. Thanks for joining us. I'm meteorologist Kelly Cass alongside meteorologist Felicia Combs and Stephanie Abrams. thunderstorms. We are getting you ready for the holiday depending on where you're heading. Your trip may start out smooth like gravy, but returning home or going out shopping, well, let's just say it could get a little lumpy out there the day after Thanksgiving, Steph.
Yeah, let's show you where it was looking lumpy.
As Felicia just talked about, before the rain even gets to us, it is going to be an overall windy day. So here's a look at Atlanta, where the visibility right now at the airport is only a half a mile. We've got some rain pushing through. It will be heavy at times to affect the morning hours. I just checked the delays, though. Surprisingly, there's no delays just yet, but that could change. In fact, the FAA is saying we could see a ground stop at any time after 10 o'clock this morning. Airport right here on the south side of Atlanta. You'll see noontime. We got the heavier storms up towards Woodstock and Kennesaw. Ackworth could see some heavier downpours, and then the main event gets here by 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon. So if that's when your flight happens to be, definitely check. Hopefully you got the notices coming to your phone, because there could be a long wait, let's just say, at the airport. And then eventually things do dry out just in time for later tonight and into our Wednesday. Now, there is more of a severe threat south of Atlanta, southern Georgia into Alabama, where we can't rule out tornadoes. A tornado condition index, or TORCON for short, shows a 3 for Montgomery, Alabama, Auburn, Alabama. That's on a maximum threat scale that goes up to 10. So it's not an extremely high number, but it's not 0 either. So that means we need to be prepared for severe thunderstorms. They are likely. Can't rule out a few tornadoes. Tornado watches could be issued by the Storm Prediction Center. When that happens, that's the time for your heads up, basically, and know that you could have severe weather. And then, of course, when a warning is issued by your county, that's how they issue them by county. That's when you need to take action and seek shelter as soon as possible. So between Montgomery and Auburn, we see a few storms out there. Later this morning by midday, we see the storms getting a little bit stronger just east of I-85 and pushing into Georgia. They're pretty much in the clear across central Alabama by about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. Not clear in Charlotte. In fact, it's going to take a little bit more time for them to get to us. We already have the wet conditions around Mecklenburg County up towards Lake Norman. You see those storms around 485 around Matthews, North Carolina. So as you can see, it's going to be after dark when the worst of that line reaches into the Queen City, the downtown, uptown area, and then by midnight, just a few isolated showers are possible. We head to the coastline now, where the coast will not be clear until early tomorrow morning. So we've got the storms coming through Columbia about midnight, and as you can see, they're going to continue right here between Myrtle Beach and Charleston, even getting into your Wednesday morning up towards the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And then eventually we can all be clear of the storms just in time for Thanksgiving Day. Same thing for North Carolina. It looks like the worst of the weather comes through late tonight, but for Raleigh, and then eventually for the Outer Banks, we'll be clearing out by early tomorrow morning. Steph?
Well, things were rocking and rolling through the mid.
For the parade in New York on Thursday morning. Well, your Tuesday morning front lines get started on the West Coast in California this month alone. Crazy. Steph?
Well, coming up on...
Welcome back in. We are America's Morning Headquarters. We've got your travel forecast. I know a lot of you are trying to travel this week for Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, the weather is getting in the way. We are seeing de-icing at some airports like Syracuse, Bedford, Mass. As you can see, we've got some heavy rain that's plaguing the eastern Great Lakes all the way down to the Gulf Coast, where there could be some severe weather. But fortunately, we've been lucky in that aspect so far this morning. But Atlanta, we've got some storms rolling on through. In fact, visibility right now, not so great at the airport, down to half a mile. So definitely check ahead there. Charlotte could experience some delays, especially late this afternoon toward the evening time frame. Pittsburgh, a little wind, little rain may cause some isolated delays, but no problems for Dallas or Denver. Looking like a good flying day for now. All right, let's show you the map, though. We are concerned about flooding, especially in northeastern Alabama, where the National Weather Service has just issued this flash flood warning. We've seen anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of rain in Jackson County, so another inch or so is possible, covering up the roadways. It might be difficult to tell just how deep that water is, but as you can see, Doppler estimates are showing us anywhere from 2 to even more than 3 inches of rain in that yellow shading right up against the Tennessee border. So that's one area to watch. We see heavier thunderstorms moving across the southern part of the state as well, where we do have the chance for some isolated tornadoes, especially down toward the coast. Heavy rain now just pushing into the western panhandle of Florida, and overall just a very windy system. Even outside of thunderstorms, hold on to that steering wheel. Be very careful. No distractions when you're trying to drive your precious cargo. Felicia?
Yeah, definitely that. And of course,
yet, although the threat is coming down just a little bit since yesterday with that TORCON 5, we still have a chance of isolated tornadoes today. And we did see 5 reports of tornadoes, Louisiana, Mississippi, trees and power lines coming down, causing a lot of people to lose their power for a time. And over into Alabama, we've had some heavy rain as well, and occasional lightning strikes, and just a flash flood warning issued moments ago for the northeastern part of the state. So as we progress through the morning, it's Atlanta, it's Birmingham. Birmingham, right on down towards Mobile Bay. These are the areas to watch where we have some pretty bad weather going on that could slow your ride and possibly cause even a ground stop at the airport. That's quite possible in Atlanta. Really any time after 10 o'clock is what they're saying on the FAA page. Right now you've got an east wind around 12 miles per hour. At times we were gusting at around 30 miles an hour. That was just a couple of hours ago, but our visibility is down to a half a mile. Birmingham, we're gusting close to 40 miles an hour right up along the Alabama-Georgia state line. We have that very strong south wind. So even outside of severe weather, we've got a lot of wind to contend with. And it's right between this cold front and warm front where we have the warm sector. This is where we have the instability, the energy that's going to feed into these storms that could rotate. We still have a bit of wind shear in the overall environment with a southerly wind, and then you've got those strong southwesterly winds aloft. So therefore, the number may not be as high as yesterday, but we still can't rule it out. Torcon 3 for southern Alabama down into Florida, also across Georgia and the Carolinas. A Torcon 2, not high on our threat scale, which is 10, but it's still a number. And you can see the overall red on the map indicative of the severe weather that's happening either this morning or perhaps later on tonight. Now, with a Torcon 3 severe weather, it's likely even a few tornadoes are possible. We could see a tornado watch being issued by the Storm Prediction Center. And then when that happens, that's your kind of heads up that you could have severe weather, including tornadoes. Now, when you're put under a warning, that will be by county. So know what county you're in if you're doing any traveling and know where to go. Make sure the family all on the same page in terms of seeking shelter when these storms come around, like in Atlanta by about 4 o'clock this afternoon, down towards Auburn, Alabama. You've got the Florida Panhandle. And look at the Carolinas. We're still going even after dark, well after the sun sets. You've got Charlotte. You've got Raleigh, Durham, eventually by midnight. Columbia, South Carolina to the coastline. Charleston, Myrtle Beach, looking at the very heavy rain and the overall gusty conditions as well. Now, the good news is, and I'll leave you with this, we do need the rain. We've got a drought in many of these areas, but, you know, even 1 to 2 inches or 3 or 4 inches, we could see some flooding on the roadways. And with the leaves coming down this time of the year, that makes it extra slippery out there. 2 hands on the wheel. They always should be, right, Felicia?
Yeah.
10 and 2.
Two hands on the wheel. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, especially the high-profile vehicles, right?
Exactly. Maybe have a podcast already ready to go, so when you get on the road, you can have
severe for sure. So far this autumn, we've been relatively lucky. If we go back to October, we did have 4 days of above-average severe reports, but as you can see, there were other days where we had at least 1. So this month of November, it was all about yesterday with 19 reports, 5 reports of tornadoes between Louisiana and Mississippi. We had a lot of wind damage and even a few hail reports as well. But if you look at this red line, we're actually running a little bit below average when it comes to severe reports so far this year. That's a line we'd like to keep down and hopefully not rise. But still, even as we go into December, it can happen every month in the calendar year. We have seen severe reports, including tornado reports, but you can tell this is our first severe season right here. May is when we typically see the bigger number of tornadoes. So this time of year, we've got that dip in the jet stream, the cold air starting to erode away the warm air that we've had during the summer season, and that temperature contrast can help to kind of strengthen a cold front at the surface, and that's why we often see the severe weather striking, especially in this part of the country. We see the red in parts of the south from Texas to Georgia, but right in here we have the greatest threat of tornadoes during November, and that's exactly where we saw it play out yesterday. We'll be right back. Sticking around for the weekend, we've got some fresh powder for some of those higher elevations. Even Denver, where we had that freak snowstorm, right? At the end of October, we had 7.5 inches of snow. We are dry leading up to Thanksgiving, so great news for traveling before we get to Turkey Day. But then the day after, temperatures plunge. We're talking a high of only 30 degrees with the snow coming down and your overnight lows dropping down into the teens at night. So we do have this dip in the jet stream. We already have the advisories posted for portions of the Bitterroots into the northern Rockies as we get that snow coming down. Look at these temperatures. They are going to be in the single digits and teens. And you can see Denver also going to be dropping as we head towards later on this week. And with that east wind, we'll get some of that upslope flow against the Rocky Mountain Range and therefore give us that snow. So you've got snow from Pocatello through Casper, Wyoming, Salt Lake City. By the way, some of these ski resorts doing pretty well to start things off. We just saw about a foot of snow at Alta Ski Resort, and we've got Breckenridge and Vail and Keystone Stone and Copper, they're all opening up for the season. So it is great news to get some more snow to open up more trails and terrain at some of these parks. You've got Salt Lake City looking at more of a wintry mix as we go through Thanksgiving Day, and then eventually that snow drops on down I-25 into Denver by the time we make our way into early Friday morning, and lasting right through Saturday for some of you, especially along those higher elevations. Here's what we're talking about. The purple, the light purple, indicating anywhere from 8 to 12 inches, but there are some areas that could do better than that. Around the San Juans, a foot to a foot and a half of fresh powder. Steph?
Let's get you out the door across the Midwest.